The story starts and we meet our protagonist Lee as he prepares for the day with his son Jun Bao. Mr. Lee, the sharp-minded CEO of Heshi Group, exhibits a computer-like intellect. Meanwhile, our heroine Chen Yue confronts her ex-boyfriend Zi Yang, who not only betrayed her trust but also claimed credit for her medical research papers. Before storming off, she sarcastically thanks Zi Yang's new girlfriend for taking care of the trash, referring to Zi Yang. This remark leaves Zi Yang's girlfriend feeling insulted and enraged. Back at Heshi Group, Jun throws a tantrum, wreaking havoc in his father's office. Despite efforts from Mr. Lee's secretary to calm him down, Jun remains unruly. Just as tensions escalate, Mr. Lee intervenes, attempting to reason with his son. Using flashcards, Jun communicates his desire to spend time with his father, revealing his inability to speak. We discover that Jun struggles with a psychological condition that renders him mute, leading to numerous failed attempts at treatment. Recognizing the severity of the situation, Mr. Lee takes Jun with him, despite his prior commitment to attend an awards ceremony. Meanwhile, discussions within Heshi Group revolve around the development of a special type of love bracelet, which Mr. Lee volunteers to test. Elsewhere, Yue shares drinks with her friend Rina, who reveals that Zi Yang is set to receive an award for Yue's research papers. Determined to confront Zi Yang, Yue rushes to the awards ceremony. Amidst the chaos, Mr. Lee livestreams the bracelet presentation, inadvertently allowing Jun to wander off. In his panic, Jun tears down a poster featuring his father and begins decorating it with stickers. Staff members attempt to intervene, prompting Jun to flee, overwhelmed by the surrounding crowd. Concerned for his son's safety, Mr. Lee frantically searches for Jun. In a stroke of fate, Yue encounters the frightened Jun just as he's about to collide with something. She swoops in, rescuing him from harm's way. Sensing his fear, she gently comforts him, and through his flashcards, she learns of his desire for solitude. Compassionately, she tries to reassure him, understanding the source of his distress. Yue discovers Jun's resentment towards his father, prompting her to propose a deal. She'll give him a gift if he returns the posters he's taken. Grateful, Jun accepts the hanky and plushie, his mood instantly lifted. Witnessing their unexpected camaraderie, the assistant is taken aback as he leads Jun away. Meanwhile, Yue begins feeling lightheaded, while Lee continues his frantic search for Jun. Mistaking Lee for her ex, Zi Yang, Yue launches into a tirade, accusing him of stealing credit for her research papers. Despite Lee's attempts to calm her, she persists in her accusations, leading him to reveal his identity. As he tries to leave, Yue's hair becomes entangled in his tie, causing them to stumble and fall onto a nearby bed. In their awkward attempt to untangle her hair, Yue ends up cutting it to free his tie. Unaware that their antics are being live-streamed, they inadvertently entertain the audience. Yue apologizes for her earlier aggression, but Lee remains unsettled by her behavior, declining her apology. As Yue departs, Lee collects his phone and proceeds to the awards ceremony. Just as Lee is about to announce Zi Yang's name, Yue's words echo in his mind, leading him to declare that no one deserves the award. Later, while searching for doctors for Jun, Lee comes across Yue's file, revealing her profession as a child psychologist. Though he initially dismisses it, Jun's unsettling dreams prompt him to reconsider. Simultaneously, Lee himself is haunted by memories of an accident involving a girl who saved a child, yet whose face remains a mystery. The following day at the office, Mr. Lee's friend inquiries about the viral live stream featuring an unknown girl. Lee suspects the girl, Yue, of deliberately causing trouble for Heshi Group. When his friend asks if he likes such troublemaking types, Mr. Lee swiftly dismisses him from the room. Meanwhile, Yue's housemate, Rina, reveals the viral video to her, prompting Yue's realization that she is the girl in question. Amidst these events, Lee, preoccupied with caring for Jun, sends his hanky for washing, unaware that it belongs to someone else. Jun becomes upset when the hanky returns without its original fragrance, leading to the discovery of its true ownership. Later at the hospital, Lee seeks medical advice for Jun, coincidentally encountering Yue. Despite Jun's tantrums, Yue manages to calm him down. When another girl named Gogo attempts to engage Jun, he rejects her, preferring Yue's company. Observing this, Lee confronts Yue, accusing her of orchestrating the viral video. In a surprising turn, Yue requests a mere 200 yuan to compensate for her ruined haircut. Lee, taken aback by her modest request, reluctantly agrees and instructs her to keep her distance. As Lee and Jun prepare to leave, June expresses a desire to stay with Yue, even suggesting her as his doctor for the simple reason that she gave him a hanky. Despite June's insistence, Lee remains unconvinced. As Lee's assistant points out, this is the first time June has shown such proximity to a stranger, indicating Yue's significance to him. Despite Lee's initial reluctance to hire Yue based solely on data analysis, his assistant encourages him to consider the emotional aspect. Recognizing Yue's importance to June, Lee decides to offer her a job and begins composing an email to extend the offer. However, a mishap occurs when the assistant mistakenly attaches images of Lee himself to the email instead of job details. Yue receives the email filled with Lee's photos and interprets it as a bizarre attempt to impress her with his looks, promptly deleting them. With no response from Yue, Lee resorts to calling her, only to have his call rejected. Attempting to sway her with money, Lee finds Yue unimpressed, her response questioning the notion that everything can be bought. Surprised by Yue's reaction, Lee's assistant advises him to employ different tactics, suggesting he try to win her heart rather than relying on monetary persuasion. Initially, they opt to send gifts to Yue's workplace in hopes of sparking jealousy among her colleagues, but Yue dismisses the gesture as madness. Undeterred, Lee's assistant continues to brainstorm new approaches to win Yue over. Upon his assistant's suggestion, Lee decides to personally pick up Yue from her workplace. However, upon seeing Lee, Yue hastily grabs her scooter and attempts to flee. Despite Lee's efforts to follow, Yue eludes him by taking a different route. Eventually, Lee blocks her path, preventing her escape. Their encounter takes a dramatic turn when they stumble upon a group of thugs harassing a girl. While Yue bravely intervenes to protect the girl, Lee hesitates, appearing to calculate something. As the situation escalates and Yue finds herself outnumbered, Lee finally steps in, rescuing her from imminent danger. In the aftermath of the confrontation, Yue expresses her gratitude but quickly shifts to anger, questioning Lee's initial inaction. However, Lee calmly explains that he never acts without reason. Impressed by Yue's courage, he allows her to tend to his wounds, where their interaction takes on a subtly charged atmosphere. As they both reach for fallen medicine, their eyes meet, igniting a moment of mutual nervousness. Lee instinctively shields Yue's head from colliding with a nearby bench, only to retract his hand before she notices. Before parting ways, Yue offers him a lollipop as a gesture of appreciation, leaving both with lingering thoughts of their encounter. The following day, at June's insistence, Lee bakes a cake for Yue. Despite encountering heavy traffic en route to the hospital, June persuades his father to utilize public transportation for a quicker journey. Arriving on time, they present the cake to Yue, who expresses her gratitude. During Yue's attempt to win a prize in a shooting game, Lee assists her in adjusting her aim, leading to success. Proximity to Lee makes Yue nervous, a detail noticed by June, who communicates his observations to Lee's assistant through drawings. Recognizing Lee's helpful nature, Yue begins to reconsider her opinion of him. Meanwhile, Lee reveals to Yue the significance of June's birthday and the family's lingering trauma from an accident 5 years prior. Inspired to make June's birthday special, Yue offers to help plan and prepare for the occasion. Despite teasing from her friend Rina, Yue remains determined to assist both June and Lee. Together, they collaborate on arrangements for June's birthday celebration. As Lee drives Yue home that evening, he presents her with a love bracelet, which she initially mistakes for a health bracelet sample. However, upon closer inspection, she realizes its true nature. Curious about its matching counterpart, she questions Lee, but he evades her inquiries, bidding her goodnight. June was initially irritated that his father was late, but his mood shifted when he learned that his father had gone to convince Yue. The following day, Yue develops a fever, and her roommate Rina advises her to take the day off. However, Yue refuses, insisting on attending to her patients. Lee receives a notification on his love bracelet indicating that Yue is sick, so he calls her to remind her to take her medicine. Yue is surprised by the call, but disregards his advice and ends up getting sicker by not taking the medicine. Rina leaves for her business trip, asking Yue to call if she needs anything. Yue, feeling unwell, goes to take a shower so she doesn't answer her phone, unaware of Lee's attempts to reach her. He becomes concerned and goes to check on her at her house. Yue tries to leave the bathtub but is too weak due to her fever. Meanwhile, Lee tries to guess the security code to her house but fails. He recalls Yue mentioning her birthday once and uses that as a guess, successfully opening the door. However, by the time he reaches the bathroom, Yue has already gotten dressed and come out, Lee, surprised, explains that he only came to check on her and records a video with her to prove his innocence before leaving abruptly. Yue tries to inform him that the door is broken, but he leaves before she can explain. Meanwhile, Lee tends to his business outside, while Yue struggles to open the door, eventually breaking the handle and gaining entry. She finds Lee outside and begins yelling at him but faints in his arms instead. Lee carries her to her room and tucks her into bed, noticing the messiness of her room and questioning her ability to take care of herself as a doctor. He leaves medicine for her and decides to pick up some snacks, but accidentally trips and falls on her. While Yue is asleep, she imagines him as food and reflexively kicks him. Lee quickly leaves, realizing that both Yue and her house are not normal. Next day, Yue wakes up and is shocked to see June sleeping next to her. Lee walks in and tells her that he and June had stayed the night to take care of her. Yue sees her house clean spotless and is surprised to find out that Lee had cleaned her house top to bottom. She remembers the events of last night and feels embarrassed. Then she asks Lee how he got into her house, and he tells her that he remembers her talking about how her birthday is in June and on the day of maths exam, so he correctly guessed the pin to be 0607. Yue is shocked to find that he had been listening to her so intently, to which Lee tells her that he remembers each word she has said. He then covers it up by saying it's because she is going to become June's doctor. When she finds out he's the one who changed her clothes, she's worried he's seen her without clothes. She ends up asking him if she looked pretty, and he replies that she did. At that point, June walked in. Yue apologizes to June for missing his birthday celebration, offering to grant any wish he desires. To her surprise, June earnestly wishes for her to be his mother. Initially skeptical, Yue wonders if father and son are playing a prank on her. However, realizing June's sincerity, she sets a condition. He must use his own voice to call her mom. Disheartened, June is unable to fulfill this condition. Later at their home, June again expresses his desire for Yue to be his mom. Lee insists that June must use his voice for this request. Frustrated by his inability to comply, June threatens to discard Lee's hard disk containing important files. Despite Lee's belief that June cannot guess the password, June effortlessly accesses the disk, revealing his intelligence akin to his father's. The following day, both father and son eagerly await Yue's arrival. June has conspired with Lee's assistant to orchestrate a plan to bring his father and Yue closer. Their playful date takes an unexpected turn at an escape house, where instead of bonding, Lee inadvertently insults Yue during a puzzle-solving challenge, leading to bickering between them. Sensing the failure of his plan, June suggests going for a walk. Unbeknownst to the others, June has coordinated with Lee's assistant for another scheme. Seizing an opportunity, June feigns losing his ball, prompting Yue to retrieve it while Lee retrieves his coat. Seizing this moment, June escapes to meet Lee's assistant, and they take a photo together, sending it to Lee before departing. Frantically searching for June, Lee feels relieved upon receiving the photo, but Yue spots a hand in the lake, fearing June is in danger. She rushes to save him, but Lee reassures her that June is safe. After emerging from the water, they discover their car missing, replaced by a tent, which is the evidence of June's scheme. With their phones dead, they're left with no choice but to camp for the night. Yue, whose clothes were soaked, changes into dry attire. Following a quick freshening up, they share noodles for dinner. Initially refusing to eat, Lee relents upon seeing Yue enjoy himself and decides to try the noodles himself, leading to a shared meal from the same bowl. Despite Lee's scolding for her impulsive dive into the lake, Yue defends her actions, believing June truly desired her as his mother. Lee, intrigued, subtly asks if Yue intends to fulfill that role, but she dismisses it as a jest. As they retire for the night in the shared tent, both feel uneasy, facing opposite directions. The next morning, Yue narrowly dodges Rina's probing questions about the previous night's events. Rina informs her of Lee's warning to Ziyang, prompting Yue to ponder if Lee truly listens to her. At the hospital, Ziyang's girlfriend invites Yue to a party, where it's revealed that Yue once aspired to be a surgeon, but injured her hand in an accident, leading her to pursue child psychology instead. Yielding to Rina's insistence, Yue prepares for the party, unaware that June and Lee are also attending. Arriving at the party, Yue captivates everyone with her beauty. However, the atmosphere shifts when Ziyang's girlfriend exposes a viral livestream video targeting Yue and Lee for humiliation. Amidst the murmurs and gossip, Lee takes Yue's hand, leading her confidently to the stage. In a surprising turn of events, Lee publicly proposes to Yue, stunning the crowd. While Jun rejoices, Ziyang and his girlfriend are visibly annoyed. Confused by Lee's actions, Yue receives an explanation. It's a ploy to teach her ex and his girlfriend a lesson. He proposes that if Yue agrees, he'll pretend to be her new boyfriend. Yue accepts, expressing gratitude, and Lee seals the deal by placing a ring on her finger and kissing her. Later, Yue's roommate, Rina, teases her about the night's events, while Jun happily displays affection toward his father. Reflecting in the bath, Yue recalls Lee's gentlemanly behavior during their staged kiss, admiring the ring before accidentally flinging it across the room. Despite the viral video of their proposal, Yue's primary concern is finding the lost ring, even experiencing a nightmare about it. Upon waking, she receives a call from Lee, inviting her to the office for a project award. When questioned by his assistant about the proposal's motive, Lee admits it was solely for Jun's happiness. Arriving at the decorated hospital, Yue's colleagues are impressed, though she feels embarrassed. Zi Yang and his girlfriend witness the scene but leave in anger. When Yue confronts Lee about the fake proposal, he insists it was genuine, sparking a heated exchange. Lee teases Yue about the possibility of falling in love, but she dismisses it, pushing him away when he tries to kiss her. As they argue, Lee reveals his pragmatic approach, emphasizing his commitment to Jun's happiness above all else. With that, he leaves Yue questioning his sanity and their complicated relationship. Back at the hospital, Zi Young's girlfriend questions the reason behind Lee's proposal to Yue, but her colleagues quickly shut down her inquiry. Jun, harboring disdain for Zi Yang's girlfriend, seeks revenge for her disparaging remarks about Yue. He orchestrates a prank where cake falls on her, then dashes away. Lee attempts to drink coffee from the same cup as Yue, but she pulls it away, refusing. Noticing Yue's bare finger, Lee inquires about the missing ring. Yue fibs, claiming she left it at home, nervously concealing the truth of its loss. Distracting him, she hands him the coffee, assuring him she still has the ring, emphasizing its value as a family heirloom not meant for everyday wear, which only heightens her anxiety. However, before she can dwell further, a colleague calls her over for an urgent matter. Meanwhile, Jun, up to mischief, notices Zi Yang and his girlfriend heading for a shower together and stealthily steals their clothes. When the couple emerges to find their clothing missing, they're mortified, with other doctors inadvertently witnessing their predicament. Yue notices, but Lee shields her view, preventing her from becoming embroiled. Zi Yang's girlfriend, infuriated, blames Yue, but Lee intervenes, cautioning her against baseless accusations and swiftly leading Yue away. Lee's assistant inquires about the commotion, prompting Lee to ask about Jun's whereabouts. Suspecting his assistant's involvement, Lee questions him, but his assistant denies involvement, indicating it's actually Jun behind the mischief. Later, Yue and Rina share drinks together, but Rina can't find a replacement for the lost ring. Concerned, she suggests Yue flee before Lee discovers the loss. Feeling overwhelmed, Yue contemplates her options. However, her focus shifts when she notices some girls taking her photo, likely due to her association with Lee. Refusing to be intimidated, Yue decides to confront the girls. She boldly approaches them and takes her own photo from their phone. Caught off guard, the girls opt to avoid confrontation and quickly leave. Despite the setback with the ring, Yue refuses to let anyone bully her or dictate her actions. In a tense moment, Lee scolded Jun for a mistake, unaware of Jun's intentions to protect Yue. Meanwhile, Lee's friend Ming arrives there, visibly distressed upon hearing news of Lee's upcoming marriage. Compounding his anguish were the drastic actions of his father, who had recently dismissed all female employees from his office because of Lee deciding to marry an employee. Transitioning to the bar scene, Rina found herself in the company of Ming, who was attempting to impress a girl. Capitalizing on the opportunity to impart a lesson, Rina observed that the bar felt lacking, attributing its dullness to Ming's presence. With each attempt by Ming to pursue a girl, Rina intervened, fabricating stories to thwart his efforts, leaving Ming perplexed. He gets furious at her, but then someone suddenly pushes them, and he pins her against the wall. Ming leans in for a kiss, and Rina slaps him for doing that. But then she decides to show him how to kiss properly. However, she was just teasing him. Despite their rocky start, they go drinking, and Ming gets hammered first, so Rina takes him to a hotel room. The next morning, Ming wakes up without his clothes and tries searching for Rina. He doesn't find her. Instead, he finds a note she has left for him, along with some cash for letting her have fun last night. Ming is furious now and considers Rina's gesture an insult. On the other hand, a cat stuck in a tree prompts Yue's intervention. Concerned for its safety, she puts her bracelet in her pocket, only for it to fall out during the rescue attempt. Unable to reach Yue, Lee escorts Jun home before rushing to her aid. Despite the precarious situation, Yue managed to save the cat, with Ning Fang, her former schoolmate, saving her from falling herself. Growing increasingly frustrated, Lee arrived at Yue's house, only to find her password changed. Meanwhile, Yue and Ning Fang visited his office, seeking shelter for the cat. Witnessing Yue's interaction with Ning Fang, Lee confronts them, demanding to know the identity of the man accompanying her. Reluctantly, Ning Fang introduced himself, prompting Lee to express gratitude for accompanying his fiancée. Lee tells Yue, "You are Jun's mother now, so don't go near other men." Yue responds firmly, stating her refusal to marry him. Back at the office, Lee discovers the viral spread of false news about Yue, alleging that she seduced him out of greed and became a doctor. He promptly ordered litigation against the perpetrator and removed the hospital's decorations in frustration. Yue's spirits lifted when she learned that the rumors about her had disappeared overnight, thanks to Rina's intervention. However, some girls confront Yue, hurling insults her way. In a timely manner, Lee appeared and proudly extolled his wife's accomplishments. He recounted Yue's prestigious education, national awards, and impeccable record as the youngest doctor in the hospital, expressing his gratitude for being able to rely on her. The girls retreat in the face of Lee's praise, leaving Yue elated. Lee then apologizes to her for the false internet rumors, marking the first time he had ever apologized to anyone. Yue assured him that it was normal to apologize for one's mistakes, and asked him to understand that marriage between them was impossible. Despite his continued pursuit, Yue refused Lee's advances, insisting that they should at least date before considering marriage. He questioned her about her past relationship with Ziyang, to which she retorted that it was none of his business. Upon returning home, Yue found herself smiling at the memory of Lee's compliments, but quickly dismissed them, focusing instead on finding her ring. Yue's parents paid a surprise visit, only to find her room in disarray. Her mother erupted in anger, berating her daughter for the mess and expressing shock upon learning, despite having a grandchild, that Yue had not married Lee. Amidst the chaos, Yue clarified that she wasn't pregnant and confessed that her marriage to Lee was a sham, recounting the whole story. Despite her parents' attempts to interject, Yue silenced them, demanding they leave. Reluctantly, they agreed but asked to stay for a few days. The following day, Lee's jealousy surfaced as he interrogated Ming about a boy dropping another girl home. Speculating on Ning Fang's intentions, Ming suggested he might be a love rival. Convinced, Lee confronted Ning Fang just as Yue appeared, inquiring about the cat. Lee feigned a cough when Yue asked if he was ill. She then informed him of her plans to dine out with Ning Fang, asserting that he wouldn't enjoy the noisy, greasy restaurant they were heading to. Agreeing, Lee criticized the restaurant's high-calorie fare, prompting Yue to leave with Ning Fang. At the restaurant, Lee watched with growing jealousy as Ning Fang served Yue. His unease heightened when Ning Fang offered her a rubber band. The tension escalated during a game where a kiss could earn free food. When the music stopped, Ning Fang made a move, prompting Lee to intervene, causing a commotion. Amidst the confusion, Yue seized the moment to take a selfie with them. Lee justified his presence as a quest to assess the restaurant's quality. The next day at the gym, Lee's thoughts drifted to the incident with Yue and Ning Fang, propelling him into an intense workout. Ming, noticing his agitation, teased him about his waning charm, prompting Lee to push himself harder. When Lee seated Jun and departed for a meeting, Yue's mother, who was present, approached Jun and inquired about his mother's identity. Upon seeing Yue's photograph, she was visibly shocked. Rina later informed Yue that her parents inquired about Lee during their visit. Yue's mother expressed her intention to personally meet Lee due to rumors of his involvement with Yue. Although she had no objections to marriage, she sought clarity on his past and planned to confront him directly. Yue asserted that there was no romantic involvement between her and Lee, expressing indifference to her parents' actions. However, her mother's emotional outburst, claiming impending demise due to Yue's secrecy, left Yue exasperated. Dismissing her mother's theatrics as unnecessary drama, Yue remained firm in her stance. Yet her mother's insistence on the seriousness of her condition heightened the tension, with her father suggesting a shared demise. Amidst the turmoil, Yue received a message from Rina and promptly excused herself, bringing her mother's theatrics to an abrupt end. Grateful for Rina's intervention, Yue thanked her friend for rescuing her from her parents' scrutiny. When Lee arrived, Yue made excuses to delay his entry, engaging in playful banter to distract him. Placing her hands on his face, she evoked nervousness in Lee, who agreed to give her time to acquaint herself with him. As Lee departed, he couldn't shake the suspicion that Yue might be hiding another man in her house. Yue and Rina hatched a plan to thwart her parents' meeting with Lee. Meanwhile, Jun, feeling distressed, sought solace with his mother. Lee relayed the news of her extended absence by 2 weeks to Jun, adding to his melancholy. On the other hand, Yue strategically left her phone in the room as she excused herself to the restroom. Her mother, unaware of her plot, texted Lee, arranging a meeting for the day. However, Yue had set her up to talk to a fake Mr. Lee, which was no one else but Rina. By doing that, she would satisfy her parents' curiosity and be done with them. Yue, believing her plan is successful, led her parents to meet Lee, expressing gratitude to Rina for her assistance. However, Rina denied replying to her mom, prompting Yue to realize her mother had indeed spoken to Lee. In a twist of events, Lee also arrives at their location, catching Yue off guard. Lee greeted Yue's parents affectionately as Mom and Dad, leaving them astounded. Asserting himself as Yue's fiancé, he drew her closer, much to her discomfort. Following Ming's advice, Lee brought a plethora of gifts for Yue's parents, impressing them. Despite Yue's attempts to interject, her parents insisted he stay and probed about their marriage plans. Lee confidently fielded their inquiries, leaving Yue's attempts to reveal the truth about their fake marriage futile. As the evening progressed, dinner was shared and Lee accidentally burnt his fingers. While Yue offered a cool can for relief, her mother suggested toothpaste instead. Amidst the search, Lee found the washroom cluttered yet welcoming. Later, Yue subtly hinted for Lee to return home for the night, but he insisted on staying in her room, much to her surprise. During the night, Lee expressed appreciation for her mother's cooking and expressed a desire to join them for breakfast, signaling his growing comfort in their home. She suggests he sleep on the sofa, but he refuses. When she tries to go to the sofa herself, he pulls her close and insists she sleep on the bed. She pushes him away and they both tumble onto the bed. Attempting to rise, she finds herself held by Lee's grasp as he confides his envy of her familial life, her home, her family, their shared meals and nights together. He laments his lack of family, to which Yue points out his love for Jun. Lee, however, feels inadequate as a father, unable to provide Jun with a complete family. Yue reassures him of his love for Jun. A call interrupts their conversation, informing Lee of Jun's fever. As he prepares to leave, Yue stops him, questioning his sobriety and insisting on accompanying him. Jun resists taking his medicine despite his illness, and Lee tries efforts to persuade him. Yue intervenes, using Dinosaur as an example of how good boys take their medicine when sick. Seeking Lee's agreement, he confirms her statement. Yue then emphasizes that if Dad is sick, he too must take medicine. Lee assures her it's not bitter, and Yue successfully administers the medicine to Jun, leaving Lee astonished. Afterward, Lee reveals to Yue that Jun is usually alone at home and has never been so close to a stranger before. He urges her to go home due to the late hour. As Yue attempts to leave, Jun surprises her with a lollipop, a gesture he seldom makes. Jun asks Yue to sleep with him, a request that astonishes both Lee and Yue. Yue agrees to stay with him for the night, and as Jun calls her mom, both Lee and Yue are shocked. The next morning, Yue recalls her promise to Jun and attempts to leave quietly, but runs into Lee. Lee suggests she move her belongings into his house since she promised Jun to be his mom. Yue reveals she was joking, much to Lee's surprise. She questions Lee's seriousness, asserting that Jun is just a child and suggesting his whimsical requests shouldn't be taken seriously. However, Lee's response surprises her. He vows to fulfill Jun's wish, even jokingly offering to buy a zoo for him since it marks Jun's first speech. He challenges Yue, stating if she thinks it's a joke, she should inform Jun herself that she doesn't want to be his mom. Yue hastily agrees, remarking that she's not his real mom anyway. After Yue realizes her parents have departed, Rina confronts her about the events of the previous night. Yue shares her dilemma, prompting Rina to question whether she'll tell Jun she can't be his mom. Despite Rina's skepticism, Yue refuses, citing her concern for Jun's well-being. Suddenly, Jun rushes to Yue, repeatedly calling her mom despite her objections. Yue attempts to soothe him, expressing concern about their informal meetings and the potential for rumors. However, Lee reassures her, predicting the rumors will subside once she becomes Jun's mom. Jun surprises Yue with breakfast, which she accepts gratefully before instructing him to return home with his father. As she heads to work, Yue's colleague teasingly mentions Yue and Lee, but Yue swiftly shuts her down. Just then, her boss enters and assigns her a special patient, introducing her to none other than Lee, who hadn't left as Yue presumed. Lee insists that Yue treat Jun due to her progress with him. However, he is interrupted by a work issue and prepares to leave. Yue intervenes, scolding him for neglecting Jun, urging him to spend time with his son. Lee prioritizes his work, stating that Jun needs Yue more than him, and prepares to depart despite her protests. However, Jun runs to Yue, embracing her and calling her mom. Yue makes him promise not to call her mom at her workplace, and Jun agrees. After Jun is discharged from the hospital, he falls asleep. Yue takes a selfie with him and sends it to Lee to reassure him of Jun's well-being. Lee is relieved to see them together and healthy. When Jun wakes up and doesn't find Yue, he frantically searches for her. On his way, Jun encounters another child who tries to bully him into giving up his phone. Refusing to comply, Jun accidentally pushes the child, causing him to cry. The child's mother arrives and scolds Jun, questioning his upbringing. Seeing the situation, Yue intervenes to protect Jun. However, the other child's mother insults Jun and demands an apology from him. Yue, angered by the woman's behavior, declares Jun as her child and reprimands her for not teaching her child manners. She insists that it's the other child who should apologize to Jun and reminds the woman that they are in a hospital where such behavior is unacceptable. As Yue consoles Jun and carries him away, witnesses, including Ziyang's girlfriend and other hospital staff, attempt to stop her and hurl insults. Undeterred, Yue shuts them down and swiftly removes Jun from the situation. Feeling abandoned, Jun expresses his fear of being left behind. But Yue reassures him, promising to always be there for him, much like his real mom, who she compares to the ever-present clouds in the sky. During her lunch break, Yue faces bullying from her colleagues, who gossip about her relationship with the wealthy Lee. Rina, outraged by their behavior, comes to Yue's defense, engaging in a verbal altercation with them. Despite their retorts, Rina boldly confronts their jealousy and advises them to focus on their own lives. Ziyang's girlfriend intervenes but accidentally spills coffee on herself in the process and hurriedly retreats to the washroom. Lee returns to the hospital to find Yue and Jun asleep in bed. Amused by their closeness, he attempts to cover Yue with his jacket, only to startle her awake. Yue quickly informs him of Jun's medication before preparing to leave. However, Lee presents her with a gift, leaving her flustered as she hastily accepts it and departs. Ziyang's girlfriend, leveraging her influence as the hospital director's daughter, has Rina dismissed from the hospital. Learning of this, Yue feels remorseful and apologizes to Rina, who reassures her that it's not her fault and she had been planning to leave anyway. Determined to move forward, Rina assures Yue that they'll meet again soon. After work, Yue, Rina, and Ningfang gather for drinks. Yue laments the trouble she inadvertently caused and feels inadequate. Ningfang consoles her, affirming her kindness and reassuring her that she's not a burden to others. The next morning, Yue assists Rina in finding a job interview and even prepares her a lucky breakfast. However, Rina faces disappointment when she fails the interview. Later, she receives an unexpected interview call from the Wenxi Group, a prestigious company. While she's delighted by the opportunity, she's puzzled as to how she received the interview call without applying. During her interview with the chairman of the Wenxi Group, Rina learns that Lee had recommended her for the position. Initially approached because of Lee's referral, Rina impresses them during the interview, solidifying her candidacy. When Yue discovers Lee's assistance, she is overjoyed and rushes to thank him, only to be interrupted by Lee's urgent news. Jun is missing from the house. In a panic, Yue and Lee search for him, recalling a previous incident when Jun learned that Lee wasn't his biological father. As they comb the area, Yue realizes where Jun might be hiding. Meanwhile, Jun waits outside Yue's apartment for her. Relieved to find him, Lee is about to scold him for leaving without informing anyone, but Yue intervenes. She brings them inside and settles them in the lounge. As Yue heads to the kitchen to prepare a meal, the noise from the dishes clattering disturbs Jun and Lee. Jun offers to help, but Yue declines, sparking a playful argument about their cooking skills. Eventually, they decide to settle the dispute with a cooking competition to see who can make the better fish dish. Surprised by Lee's meticulous cooking, Yue watches as they both serve their dishes to Jun. Blindfolded for an unbiased taste test, Jun tries both dishes. To Yue's shock, Jun prefers the dish she made over Lee's, leaving both of them astonished. Yue explains the special touches she added to her dish, using unique flavorings and diluting strong ingredients with milk to cater to children's tastes. Most importantly, she emphasizes the love she poured into preparing the meal for Jun. Afterward, she guides Jun to wash his hands. Meanwhile, Lee is intrigued by Yue's cooking and decides to taste her food. Surprised by its deliciousness, he finds himself unable to stop eating, much to Yue and Jun's amusement. As they prepare to leave, Jun falls asleep. Yue offers to accompany them out, which Lee accepts. During the journey, Yue expresses her gratitude to Lee for helping Rina secure an interview. However, Lee shifts the conversation to the expensive ring Yue lost. Shocked that he knows about the ring, Yue defends herself, offering to repay him the money. Instead, Lee presents her with a contract, proposing that she become Jun's private doctor. Rushing to read the contract, Yue agrees but asserts that she's only doing it for Jun's sake and not to fulfill any husband-wife role with Lee. He assures her that he's not interested in her in that way. The contract stipulates that it can only be terminated if Jun recovers or if one of them dies, falls ill, or falls in love with someone else. Reluctantly agreeing, Yue hopes Lee will find someone else soon to end the contract. However, she's shocked to learn that breaking the contract incurs a penalty of 20 million. Desperate to retrieve the contract, she inadvertently falls onto Lee, who teasingly remarks that now they've agreed to be husband and wife, she can cling to him as much as she likes. With a playful tease, Lee departs, leaving a stunned Yue to ponder the daunting zeros in the penalty amount. Seeing the contract, Rina teases Yue about her new title as Mrs. Lee. However, Yue clarifies that she's merely playing the role of a wife on paper, emphasizing that her true job is to help Jun speak and enroll him in a good school. The two friends spend the night reminiscing about their childhood, revealing a bond more akin to sisters than mere friends. They dance, play around, and record videos, enjoying each other's company. The next day at work, the chairman expresses his anger as his son Ming arrives late to the meeting. Coincidentally, Rina also joins the meeting at the same time, much to Ming's surprise upon realizing she's his father's assistant. He attempts to engage with her, reminiscing about their encounter a few nights prior, but she remains unresponsive, mindful of their professional setting. Witnessing their interaction, the chairman is taken aback. Rina cleverly avoids acknowledging Ming, especially as the meeting progresses. However, during Ming's presentation, he accidentally projects his romantic messages with someone, eliciting laughter from the attendees. Rina acts quickly, shutting down the screen before more embarrassing details are revealed. Frustrated, the chairman storms out of the meeting, and when Ming tries to approach Rina, she leaves as well. Later, Ming shows Lee a video of Rina and Yue, pointing out that despite Lee's deal with Yue, she's suffering from being away from her loved ones. Lee's genuine concern for Yue surprises Ming, who tries to push him to admit his feelings for her. However, Lee remains silent, refusing to engage in the discussion. Meanwhile, Yue confides in Ningfang about the contract, explaining her motives for accepting it. Despite his offer to assist her, Yue insists on helping Jun and clarifies that her intentions with Lee are purely related to her responsibilities as a doctor. Nonetheless, Ningfang feels saddened by the news of Yue moving in with Lee. Ming attempts to pursue Rina, but she deflects his advances by spilling coffee on him. With no other romantic prospects, Ming urges Rina to keep their previous encounter a secret between them. The following day, Yue prepares to leave for Lee's house when his guard arrives with a contract for her to sign. The contract reveals that Lee has purchased the entire building where Yue lives. While he waits for her outside, Yue takes her time before finally emerging. As she exits the building, Yue trips and nearly falls on Lee, who quickly moves aside. Frustrated, she scolds him for not preventing her fall and starts to lightly hit him. Lee reveals that he bought the building in hopes of finding the lost ring, as there's a high probability it may be there. Initially hesitant, Yue eventually agrees to sign the contract. Despite the charade of a happy married life, Yue is taken aback by the simplicity of Lee's home and carries her own luggage inside. Lee gives her a tour of the spacious and tidy house, outlining the house rules along the way. To maintain the illusion of marital bliss, Lee ensures that Yue's room is connected to his own. This arrangement aims to dispel any doubts about their relationship, especially in front of Jun. During dinner preparation, Yue invites Lee to join her, engaging in affectionate gestures to convince Jun of their harmony. Throughout the evening, they continue their pretense, albeit unsuccessfully, until Lee lifts Yue, sparking a genuine connection between them that doesn't go unnoticed by Jun. Later, they share the bathroom, where Lee reprimands Yue for her disorganized belongings. In the quiet of the night, Yue sneaks to the kitchen for a midnight snack, only to be joined by June. They enjoy noodles together, hiding their indulgence when Lee approaches but resuming once he leaves. Disappointed by Lee's decision to send June to a museum instead of an amusement park, Yue feels frustrated on behalf of the child, who longs for a more enjoyable outing. Rina's intervention secures the rehiring of female employees, prompting Ming's enthusiastic response, which she deflects playfully. Meanwhile, Yue, determined to provide Jun with an enjoyable outing despite Lee's instructions, takes him to a natural museum. However, they encounter rain, and Lee arrives with an umbrella, shielding them from the downpour. Unfortunately, they both catch a cold as a result. Back home, Lee reprimands them for disobeying his rules, discovering their earlier noodle escapade in the process. Despite scolding them, he finds himself indulging in the same noodles later. Seeking payback, June and Yue attempt to draw on Lee's face while he sleeps, but their plan fails when he wakes up. In a comical twist, Yue ends up drawing on her own face before fleeing the scene. The next day, a humorous race to the washroom ensues, with Yue embarrassed to find her undergarments there. Later, Yue takes June to the park, where they encounter Ningfang. Learning about June's condition, Ningfang suggests a special primary school, which he tours with Yue. Impressed, she proposes the idea to Lee, initiating a potential change for June's education. Yue's decision to enroll June in the recommended school is met with jealousy from Lee upon seeing her photo with Ningfang. This leads to a disagreement, resulting in Yue canceling their contract and leaving Lee's house to return to her own apartment. Rina offers consolation, but Yue's spirits lift when she receives a video call from June, who surprises her by showing up at her doorstep, having packed his belongings without his father's knowledge. Upon learning of June's presence at Yue's apartment, Lee arrives to take him back home. However, Jun refuses to leave, insisting on staying with his mother. At the hospital, Yue attends to a child patient whose mother is visibly distressed. She suggests stress therapy for the mother, but Zi Yang's girlfriend intervenes, speaking ill of Yue and turning the mother against her. When Yue tries to reason with the mother, she's insulted and pushed down the stairs in a fit of rage. Lee arrives just in time to witness the incident, attempting to save Yue but failing to prevent her injury. Yue is treated for her injuries, with her ex, Zi Yang, unexpectedly appearing to provide medical care. Lee, feeling jealous, reacts by carrying Yue in his arms, demonstrating a caring side she hadn't seen before. The situation escalates when the child's mother spreads false rumors about Yue, leading to media attention. Despite facing scrutiny, Yue bravely confronts the situation, with Ningfang coming to her aid by driving her away from the scene. In the midst of false news circulating about Ningfang, Yue declines her offer to help clear the air. When Yue friendly touches Ningfang's knee, Jun becomes visibly irritated and jealous. He promptly removes Yue's hand and positions himself between the two. Lee issues a warning to Zi Yang's girlfriend for inciting strife against Zi Yang, then departs to attend to Yue, who is confined to a wheelchair. Despite her insistence for him to leave, he persists and urges her to return home with him. She refuses due to the pain in her legs, but Lee mentions a penalty, prompting her to tug him by the tie and agree to accompany him home. He assists her into the car and drives her home. During the ride, Yue shares her idea of working part-time at Ningfang's clinic. Though Lee remains silent, this idea troubles him internally. He confides in Ming, who advises him to heed Yue's wishes. They discuss the complexities of women's behavior. The following morning, Lee walks in on Yue attempting to rise and change. He offers his assistance, but she declines, prompting him to respect her privacy. Recalling Ming's advice that women often mean the opposite of what they say, Lee decides to assist her despite her refusal. Inadvertently touching her leg while passing her clothes, Lee surprises Yue with his gesture and is promptly kicked out of her room. Later, the entire family goes grocery shopping. Despite Lee's disapproval, Yue and Jun gather a plethora of snacks. During dinner, he shows his care for her by advising Yue to avoid oily fried food and to drink warm water. Later, Yue stumbles upon photos of Lee with numerous girls in his dresser, leading her to perceive him as a playboy. Feeling disheveled and unable to shower, she mutters her frustration. Lee overhears her and proceeds to help wash her hair and blow-dry it for her. Later, he contemplates a drawing he made of the girl who saved June in the accident, pondering her identity. In the morning, June encourages him to bid Yue farewell with a nice kiss. Initially intending for a quick peck, Lee accidentally kisses Yue's neck, leaving her flustered and earning a smile from June. At the hospital, Yue discovers that Lee has filed a lawsuit against the woman who mistreated her earlier. She implores him to withdraw the case, but he refuses. Angered, she attempts to leave but loses her balance and falls. Lee comes to her rescue once again, helping her into a chair. Back home that night, both Lee and Yue try to persuade June to read books of their choosing. They engage in a game of hide-and-seek within the book, but Lee outperforms Yue, much to her irritation. Lee takes the book from her and leaves. Repeatedly urging him to drop the lawsuit, Yue irritates him, prompting him to pick her up bridal style and put her in June's room. Seeking revenge, Yue takes some provocative photos of Lee while he swims. Playfully threatening him with the photos, she grabs her phone back from him, and in the process, they both tumble onto a sunbed with Yue ending up on top of Lee. Taking advantage of her position, Yue refuses to move from on top of him until Lee agrees to drop the lawsuit. However, he initiates a playful fight with her. Their antics are interrupted when Lee's assistant walks in on them, visibly flustered by their comfortable position. Later, Lee converses with the woman from the hospital, explaining that he is closing the case at Yue's insistence due to her stress. He persuades the woman to accept this resolution, and she acknowledges her mistake, agreeing to undergo stress therapy and close the case. Learning of the resolution, Yue is elated. While absent-mindedly browsing through a book in his study, she discovers a photo of him with another girl tucked away inside. Intrigued, she wonders about the identity of the girl in the photo. Checking up on Lee, who isn't feeling well, Yue is taken aback to find him half naked in his robe. Flustered, she attempts to leave, but Lee pulls her onto his lap. Feeling his feverish temperature, she decides to tend to his fever instead. Despite Lee's insistence on going to the hospital, Yue believes he is overreacting to his slight fever and attempts to care for him herself. Her unconventional methods prompt Lee to wonder whether she is trying to nurse him back to health or harm him. Eventually, he falls asleep, and Yue overhears him sleep-talking, realizing he suffers from serious nightmares. It is revealed that Lee has been collecting photos of girls from behind in search of the girl who saved June from the accident 5 years ago. His assistant Ming teases him for holding on to a first love he has never even seen. Later, Yue embarks on her part-time job at Ningfang's clinic. On the other hand, Rina wakes Ming up as she is now his new assistant. The chairman assigns Rina a project for Ming, but he dismisses her, stating he is not interested. Undeterred, Rina persists in following him wherever he goes. However, due to standing for too long, her feet become bruised. Yue questions Rina about the girl in the picture next to Lee, wondering if she is his ex-girlfriend or a childhood friend. Rina teasingly asks if Yue is jealous, which Yue denies. However, she later finds herself discussing the same topic on the phone with Rina. Growing bored of the conversation, Rina shows disinterest. Meanwhile, Yue accidentally sends a text meant for Rina about Lee to Lee himself. Upon realizing her mistake, she pretends to sleep and ignores the problem, but Lee assumes she wants to inquire about his love life. Yue attempts to change the subject and distract him, but he firmly tells her to mind her own business. After continuous persuasion by Yue, Lee finally agrees to enroll Jun into school. However, he still cannot accept the picture of Yue and Ningfang. Lee fills the couch with toys, much to the delight of Yue and Jun. He also downsizes the dining table, creating a more intimate family atmosphere. Yue expresses her gratitude, and Jun is thrilled with the changes. Meanwhile, Ming takes Rina to a romantic restaurant and plays the violin for her. Despite Rina's attempts to discuss the project file, Ming focuses on being romantic. When Rina raises her hand to fix her lipstick, it momentarily startles Ming, who had been attempting to seduce her in order to set her up and get her fired. He confesses his love for her, but Rina sees through his scheme. They agree to a bet, with the loser having the final say. Elsewhere, Yue, Jun, and Ningfang play basketball in the park, and Lee joins them. He proposes a match against Ningfang and Yue, stating that he will only send Jun to school if they win. The match begins, with emotions running high. Each time Lee scores, Jun and Yue feel disheartened, but they cheer whenever Ningfang scores. As the game progresses, both teams' scores remain tied. Then the match between Yue and Lee commences. Lee deliberately lets her win to bring joy to Jun. The following day, Yue prepares Jun's school bag and lunch, while Lee presents a smart school bag he made to protect Jun in case of an attack. Yue reminds him that Jun is going to school, not to war, advising him to let Jun experience a normal childhood, and suggesting that he first learns to be a normal dad. Lee questions if he's not normal, to which Yue playfully responds by calling him extraordinary. Together with Ming, they accompany Jun to school as he is a little apprehensive. While observing his surroundings, Jun notices other children kissing their parents on the cheeks and the affection between them. Inspired, he kisses Yue on the cheek, prompting Lee to do the same, albeit hesitantly. Later, Lee receives a phone call and goes to his car, while Yue stays with Jun to ease his nerves. Ningfeng also joins them, catching Lee's attention from his car. Deciding to work remotely instead of going to the office, Lee uses a telescope to closely observe Yue and Ningfeng, growing increasingly irritated by their closeness. He calls Yue, urgently requesting her to return home. Hurrying back, Yue and Jun find Lee at home, asking her to prepare food. Yue teases him and playfully withholds the chopsticks. As Lee leans over her to retrieve them, they share a close moment, interrupted by the arrival of Lee's aunt. Introducing Yue as his wife, Lee's aunt expresses curiosity about her after Yue leaves the room. He begins praising Yue to his aunt, and she smiles as she listens from outside the door. The aunt then approaches Jun, inquiring if his dad has found a mom for him. Jun responds by writing on a piece of paper that he has found himself a mom. Lee pulls Yue close to him in front of his aunt to avoid suspicion regarding the marriage contract, but she remains oblivious to their gestures. Once his aunt leaves, Yue pulls away from him, evading his attempts to caress her face. During dinner, when the aunt hears Jun address Yue as mom, she is shocked. Yue attempts to serve the aunt from her chopsticks, but she declines and helps herself. Recognizing that Lee married Yue because of Jun but is developing genuine feelings for her, the aunt insists on Lee attending a party. Although Lee wishes to bring Yue along, his aunt disagrees. Lee mentions the party to Yue during dinner. Initially hesitant, she eventually agrees after he teases her about her dancing skills. Dance instructors are brought to the house to help Yue prepare, and Lee imposes dietary restrictions on her to help her lose weight, despite her exhaustion. Meanwhile, he locates the car driver he had been searching for, prompting him to leave the house in a hurry, shocking Yue. Looking at the picture of the car driver, Yue realizes it's the same driver from the accident. When Lee arrives at the driver's location, he discovers that the driver has fled, fueling his anger. Meanwhile, Ming continues trying to seduce Rina, who remains unaffected by his advances. Yue visits Rina at her office to eat spicy food but hides when she sees Lee. Lee complains to Ming about the driver escaping and his determination to uncover the truth. Discovering Yue's presence, he scolds her for leaving dance practice, but she lies, claiming she came for dance lessons from Rina, who is unaware of the deception. Later, Ming explains to Yue the reason for Lee's mood, revealing the tragic accident that claimed his brother and sister-in-law's lives. Yue, empathizing with Lee's struggles, loses her appetite for spicy food. Yue apologizes to Lee with Ming's assistance, and he stops pressuring her to take dance classes. However, Yue continues practicing alone, and Lee eventually decides to join her. With love and care, he begins teaching her to dance. As they dance, they lock eyes and Yue closes hers, leaning in for a kiss, but Lee interrupts by turning off the music. Undeterred, Yue switches to rock music and dances wildly, with Lee smiling admiringly at her. At the party, all three of them are ready, and Lee introduces Yue as his wife to everyone. The couple shares a slow dance before Lee helps Yue change into sneakers. They then burst into wild dancing to rock music, with Yue feeling herself falling in love with Lee. Suddenly, Lin Wei, the owner of Lin Wei Group, enters the party, sparking compliments about how she and Lee would make the perfect couple. This realization disturbs Yue, causing her to walk away only to trip on her shoelaces in front of everyone. Lee helps her up, but she feels embarrassed. The aunt expresses her fury at Yue for the incident, advising Lee to focus on the company rather than the search for the driver. Back at home, Lee tends to Yue's wounded foot. Later, Yue tries to inquire about Lin Wei from Lee, but he abruptly changes the topic. Overthinking, Yue assumes Lin Wei was his first love, which saddens her. Reading comments online about Lin Wei being better suited for Lee, Yue becomes upset, but Lee advises her to ignore them. Late one night, Rina experiences strange occurrences at the office, including paranormal phenomena like blood on her hands and ghostly apparitions in mirrors. When Ming rushes to her rescue, he himself is terrified, but Rina eventually realizes it's all a part of Ming's scheme. The following day, Lee discovers that his aunt was behind the rumors. She confirms her actions, expressing her disapproval of Yue as a daughter-in-law and her preference for Lee to marry Lin Wei instead. However, Lee reaffirms Yue's status as his wife. and despite his inability to halt the rumors, he apologizes to Yue and compensates her with money. Rejecting the offer, Yue expresses her desire for freedom, which Lee agrees to. To combat the rumors, Lee takes Yue and Jun out for snacks, where they notice someone taking pictures of them. In response, they pose as a happy family to dispel the rumors, with Lee adopting gentlemanly behavior and showing extra affection in public. Their staged pictures go viral, capturing everyone's attention. Auntie deliberately sends Lin Wei to work with Lee on a project. Meanwhile, Ming continues his attempts to seduce Rina, but she starts playing the same game with him, leaving him flustered and asking her to leave. Later, Rina catches Lee and Lin Wei working together and snaps a photo to show Yue, advising her to confront Lin Wei, her romantic rival. In a moment of frustration, Yue vents her anger by hitting a pillow with Lee's picture on it. When Lee walks in, she reassures him she won't be using that pillow to sleep. He teases her by suggesting he'll provide her with a life-sized pillow of himself. The next morning, Lee leaves for the office without breakfast, leading Yue to worry that he may have a romantic breakfast with Lin Wei instead. When Jun notices Yue's sadness, he suggests they visit Lee's office together. They bring breakfast for Lee, but Yue also arrives with her own breakfast. Both Yue and Lin Wei insist that Lee eat their breakfast, but he chooses Yue's meal. However, when Yue sees Lee working closely with Lin Wei, she becomes sad and jealous. Taking revenge on Lin Wei's perceived intrusion, Jun secretly adds something to her coffee. Startled by the unfamiliar taste, Lin Wei spills the coffee on herself. Lee asks Jun to apologize, but when Jun refuses, Lee sends him home, leading to an argument with Yue. The next scene unfolds with Ming assigning an excessive workload to Rina, leading to her being unable to complete it on time. Despite Ming's attempt to clarify that Rina is only supposed to handle his tasks as his assistant, Rina has already finished all the tasks, rendering the argument moot. Yue takes Jun to her house, where her mother realizes something is wrong upon seeing Jun's sadness, realizing that Yue and Lee have had an argument. Meanwhile, Lin Wei encounters Ning Fang, prompting a flashback to when Ning Fang provided her with antidepressant medication, but encouraged her to seek treatment instead. Learning that Ning Fang lives in the same city, Lin Wei avoids contacting him, attempting to hide her illness. Meanwhile, Lee realizes that Yue took Jun to her house, but she left her belongings there. As Yue expects Lee's arrival, she rushes to the door only to find Lee's secretary delivering the items, as Lee is on his way to a meeting with Lin Wei. Suddenly, Yue's father's health takes a turn for the worse, and the doctor reveals the seriousness of his condition, prompting Yue and her mother to burst into tears. Upon Yue's arrival, she sends Rina and Jun to Lee's house. When Jun informs Lee about Yue's father's health, Lee rushes to the hospital with him. Yue is distraught over her father's high-risk operation, but Lee comforts her and arranges for the best medical team, alleviating some of the risk. Grateful, Yue's mother thanks Lee, who later brings porridge for Yue. Expressing her gratitude, Yue questions why Lee is helping her so much, to which he responds by affirming their marital bond. She then asks about the rumors of Lee's engagement to Lin Wei, to which Lee dismisses as a childhood joke, not to be taken seriously. As Yue's father's operation concludes successfully, everyone rejoices. Lee notices Yue asleep in her father's hospital room and considers waking her, but instead he covers her with his coat. However, when he tries to move her hair from her face, Yue, in her sleep-deprived state, mistakenly bites his finger, imagining it to be a chicken roll. Her father's laughter wakes her, and upon realizing what she's done, she feels embarrassed. Her father gestures a victory sign, prompting Yue and Lee to join hands, forming a love sign. Later, Auntie advises Lee to focus on work instead of helping strangers, to which he humorously responds that it's his father-in-law. Later, Auntie visits Yue's parents and notices Jun's close attachment to Yue, suggesting to Lee that it might be part of Yue's scheme. Lee firmly denies this suggestion. When Yue asks Ming about the girl from the photograph, he initially refuses to answer. However, when she bribes her with information about Rina, he divulges that the girl might be from Lee's dreams, as he has been searching for her for a long time without success. This revelation surprises and shocks Yue. Later, Lee rushes to the hospital room after receiving a call from Yue's mom, but upon opening the door, he finds many of Yue's relatives eagerly waiting to meet him. Rina and Ning Fang also arrive, and at Rina's request, Lee and Ning Fang go to get fruit boxes, but there is a palpable awkwardness between them. Lee astutely analyzes Ning Fang's body language. As they return with the fruit boxes, Lin Wei intercepts Lee and instructs him to attend a meeting. After Lee leaves, Lin Yue warns Yue not to disturb Lee's work anymore, threatening consequences if she does. Yue questions Lin Yue's motives, and she angrily departs, leading Ningfang to realize Yue's feelings for Lee. Meanwhile, Rena's brother confronts her in her office, demanding money, but she refuses. Ming intervenes, initially assuming her brother is a troublemaker, but later treats him kindly upon realizing their relationship. Rena discovers Yue's diamond ring in the washroom and returns it to her, suggesting to keep it safe to protect Lee from Lin Yue. When Lee and June visit Yue's parents, Yue is delighted, and they all share dinner together. During the meal, Yue's mother invites June to call her grandma, which he happily agrees to. However, he struggles to call Lee daddy, which saddens Lee deeply. Meanwhile, Lin Yue calls Lee for a meeting at a hotel, upsetting Yue, who rushes to Rena for assistance. Rena helps Yue prepare and arranges for Ningfang to drop her off at the hotel. As Yue rides the elevator, she perceives a man taking photos of her and confronts him angrily, only to discover it is Mr. J, the individual Lee had a meeting with. Furious, Mr. J refuses to cooperate, leading to tension. Lin Yue reprimands Yue, asserting her knowledge that Yue and Lee aren't a genuine couple. Lin Yue boldly declares that regardless of the circumstances, she and Lee will ultimately marry, sparking sadness in Yue, who apologizes to Lee. Lee, empathetic, offers his coat to Yue to keep her warm and proposes to take her home, but she opts to leave with Ningfang instead. Alone, Yue begins drinking to numb her sadness. Ming notices Yue and Ningfang drinking together and alerts Lee. Upon Lee's arrival, he sends Ningfang home and invites Yue to leave with him. However, Lin Yue's call interrupts, prompting Yue to decide to end the contract, citing June's improved condition and her desire to focus on her career without disturbing Lee. Despite Lee's offer to accompany her home, Yue departs, feeling hurt when he doesn't stop her. Arriving home, Yue vents her frustration by hitting her stuffed teddy bear, feeling upset that Lee didn't prevent her from leaving. Meanwhile, Lee confides in Ming about his sorrow and receives advice on how to win back Yue. The following day, Lee visits Yue's office and informs her that the contract remains in effect until June makes a friend, extending hope for their relationship to continue. Yue facilitates an introduction between June and Gugo, who presents herself as if it were a professional interview. Their interaction leads to a budding friendship as June pronounces Gugo's name correctly, a sign of his fondness for her. Yue announces that the contract is ending, prompting Lee to propose a new agreement with higher compensation. Disappointed, Yue prioritizes her career over continuing their arrangement, returning the diamond ring to Lee. In another scene, Lee, accompanied by his aunt, meets with Lin Yue and her mother. Despite suggestions that their marriage would benefit both Lin Yue Group and Heshi Group, Lee rejects the idea, refusing to sacrifice his personal happiness for career gains. A revelation unfolds when Auntie learns that Lin Yue's desire to become a surgeon was thwarted by a car accident on the same day June's parents were injured, a fact unbeknownst to Lee. As June longs for his parents, Yue steps in to assist with the upcoming parent-teacher meeting. Her song triggers memories for Lee, evoking thoughts of the girl from the accident. Meanwhile, Mr. J agrees to cooperate with Heshi Group, his refusal influenced not by Yue's actions, but by her genuine apology and persuasion. Ningfang's visit to Yue and June results in excitement as June drops a sound recorder in his eagerness to receive a gift. As Yue and Ningfang converse, Lee returns and discovers the recorder containing a recording of Yue's song. However, he overhears Ningfang's inquiry about Yue's feelings for him. Yue attempts to retrieve the recorder, but Lee seizes it first, leaving a moment of tension between them. As Yue attempts to retrieve the voice recorder from Lee, her recorded response to Ningfang's question plays, expressing that the moments she shared with Lee will always hold a special place in her heart. Lee's reaction prompts Yue to flee to the washroom, where she ponders her actions in front of the mirror, questioning why she recorded such sentiments. Meanwhile, Lee's increased heart rate triggers his bracelet to beep, signaling his own discomfort. Feeling uneasy, both Lee and Yue struggle with their emotions, leading to an awkward atmosphere between them. After Yue leaves, Lee listens to the voice recording repeatedly, reflecting on its significance. He confides in Ming about Yue's feelings, while Yue shares with Rena that Lee discovered her affections but remained silent. Despite her initial reservations, Rena acknowledges that the contract's end may be for the best. Ming advises Lee to confess his love before Ningfang makes a move on Yue. When Lee learns of Ningfang and Yue's school trip plans, he manages to obtain the address from June. Upon arriving at the location and encountering Ningfang and Yue together, Lee intervenes, attempting to stop Yue from leaving. However, Yue asserts that forced love is unsustainable and confesses that she harbors feelings for the PE teacher and the math teacher, much to Lee's dismay. She then approaches the PE teacher, only to be interrupted by his wife, who expresses their marital contentment. As Lee pulls Yue close and asserts that she is his wife, Yue shares with Rina that Lee's pursuit of her is a positive sign, indicating that he becomes closer the more she tries to distance herself. Meanwhile, Ningfang confides in Lee about his feelings for Yue and his fear of losing her if he confesses. Lee teasingly calls him slow for his hesitation. On the other hand, Rina purposely mentions meeting a playboy named Mr. Vang in front of Ming to evoke jealousy. Despite Ming's attempts to prevent her from meeting Mr. Vang, she proceeds anyway. Ming, unable to resist his jealousy, follows them. He witnesses a hug between Rina and Mr. Vang, further fueling his envy. He then notices Rina's brother asking money from Mr. Vang, prompting Rina to intervene and send Mr. Vang away. Ming, moved by Rina's actions, attempts to offer his watch to her brother, but Rina stops him. However, her brother steals an empty bag from her. Ming then notices Lee's aunt giving money to the driver involved in the car accident before leaving upon spotting Ming. On the other hand, Yue playfully asks June if she is pretty, receiving an affirmative response. When Lee questions if he is handsome, June bursts into laughter. As Lee prepares to leave, Yue playfully tries to trip him with her foot, teasing him by stating that he is not so handsome. Despite this banter, they all enjoy their time together, with Lee feeling happy to see Yue and June playing together. When June asks Yue to sleep with him, she declines, citing her reluctance to share a bed with Lee. Lee suggests a sleeping arrangement where he, June, and Yue each have their own space on the bed. Yue then complies with June's request to sing, while Lee gets a call from her aunt. Yue's song triggers a flashback for Auntie. In the flashback, she remembers Yue comforting a crying June, with the same song after the car accident that led to his parents' death, leading Auntie to realize Yue's connection to the accident. Later, during the field trip's talent show, Jun sings the same song that Yue sang, further highlighting their bond. Lin Wei's attempt to get close to June is unsuccessful, as he doesn't respond to her advances. Yue instructs June and Lin Wei to go fishing together, but the situation turns tense when Lin Wei injures herself and falls into the water. Lee scolds June for his joke, apologizes on his behalf, and takes Lin Wei home. Later, when June expresses a desire to visit Yue, she declines, citing busyness. Upset, June is comforted by Yue, who engages him in play with bubble guns. However, Yue's sadness at the thought of leaving Jun and Lee is evident when June is away refilling the water for the guns. At that moment, Lee enters and informs her that the contract has ended. However, he expresses his desire to establish a new contract with her, one that encompasses his feelings for her, lasting for their entire lifetime. Referring to a past statement by Yue that she had no reason to stay, Lee now offers her a reason to remain by kissing her. Yue reciprocates the kiss, and they both exude extreme happiness. Jun, having refilled his bubble gun, returns and affectionately kisses them both on their cheeks, prompting reciprocal kisses. Subsequently, Yue receives a call from Ningfang and departs, while Jun reveals to Lee that Ningfang had planned to surprise Yue. Witnessing Yue's blushing reaction, Ningfang begins to touch her, prompting Lee to intervene and whisk Yue away. In the car with Jun, Lee warns Ningfang to stay away from Yue, leaving Ningfang visibly despondent as they drive off. Lee has adorned Yue's room with a large television, fridge, and plenty of snacks. They both settle on the bed to watch TV. During a kissing scene on the screen, Lee struggles to contain himself and eventually turns towards Yue, who offers him a can of soda. As another kissing scene unfolds, Yue takes Lee's hand, placing it on her shoulder, and leans her head on his shoulder before eventually drifting off to sleep. The next morning, Lee's romantic disposition delights all the staff members. However, when Lin Wei broached the topic of marriage with Lee and revealed his relationship with Yue, Lee seemed perplexed by Yue's refusal to sign the marriage contract. Despite his attempts to convince her in a businesslike manner, Yue insisted on Lee revealing his true feelings. Although his assistant signaled for him to say, "I love you," Lee faltered, leaving Yue frustrated as she stormed off. Meanwhile, Ming warned Mr. Vang to steer clear of Rina, prompting Rina to react angrily and depart. Ming then turned to Yue for information about Rina's brother, learning that Rina kept her personal matters private. Yue expressed admiration for Rina's resilience and advised Ming to persist if he truly liked elsewhere. Lee practiced saying, "I love you," while gazing at a photo of Yue. Inspired by Ming, Lee planned a perfect date and took Yue fishing. However, Yue was infuriated by the unconventional date. As she accidentally fell onto Lee while catching fish, he seized the moment to kiss her instead of releasing her. In the next scene, Jun was coaching Lee on how to say, "I love you." Lee then invites Yue for a perfect date. Upon seeing him lying on the bed, practicing his lines, Yue becomes startled and rushes to their room. Meanwhile, Lin Wei, despite being stressed, conceals her anxiety from her mother, who pressures her to marry Lee for business reasons. Elsewhere, Auntie attempts to keep Yue away from Lee, but he intervenes, whisking his wife away and apologizing on behalf of Auntie. He then expresses his love for Yue, who happily reciprocates, leading to a joyous embrace and a kiss before they run off together. Meanwhile, Lin Wei, struggling with stress, seeks solace in medication provided by Ning Fang, who clarifies that he is a psychologist, not a drug dealer. He insists on her completing a form before dispensing the medication, much to Lin Wei's reluctance. Reluctantly, she complies and accepts the medicine, with Ning Fang advising her to seek proper treatment in the future. On the other hand, Yue captures a couple photo with Lee, proudly displaying it on his desk. Since she hadn't disclosed her relationship with Lee to her friends, she invites them over and officially announces their dating status. Playfully, they engage in a game of truth or dare, during which Lee asks Yue whom she would save if they both fell into the water. Amusingly, Yue admits she wouldn't save anyone as she doesn't know how to swim. During a game of truth or dare, a dare requires Lee and Yue to eat the same chip together, leading to playful moments as they take bites simultaneously. As the snack diminishes, prompting the necessity of a kiss, Yue cleverly breaks the chip in between bites. Having consumed a considerable amount of alcohol, Lee offers Yue a piggyback ride home, receiving a grateful kiss on the cheek from her as a gesture of appreciation. Meanwhile, tensions between Yue and Auntie persist, prompting Yue to attempt to mend their relationship by learning golf, Auntie's favorite sport. However, Yue becomes so engrossed in her lessons that she neglects to eat and even talks about golf in her sleep, inadvertently causing Lee to suffer through her sleep practice sessions. The following day, while practicing golf again, Yue nearly causes Lee to slip by stepping on a golf ball. Lee steps in to provide golf training personally, but also includes kissing training, much to Yue's surprise. At the office, numerous employees resign due to directives from Lin Wei Group, causing Lee to worry. Additionally, the driver from the accident demands money from Auntie, prompting Yue to intervene and protect her. The driver reveals that Lee was driving during the accident but lost his memory of the event due to his injuries. Shocked, Yue learns that she was the one who saved Lee that day. Auntie reveals to Yue that she had concealed the truth to protect Lee's mental well-being, urging her to distance herself from him to avoid triggering distressing memories. Reluctantly, Yue decides not to answer Lee's calls, leaving him disheartened. Later that evening, Yue encounters Jun at home and reflects on her role as his mother, unable to bear seeing him suffer any longer. Lee, having been plagued by unsettling dreams, awakens to find Yue beside him. Concerned, he questions her about her unreturned calls. She admits to not noticing the phone and inquires about his brother. Lee opens up about his brother's excellence, their father's plans for them in business, and the tragic accident that changed everything. Moved by his story, Yue offers him comfort. Lee then shares a photo of a girl's back, confessing she was his first love, but he now only desires Yue. Yue, realizing she was the girl in the photo, remains silent with tears welling in her eyes. The following day, she joins Auntie for a game of golf, with Jun and Lee cheering her on. Auntie commends their love, but despite the affection she has for them, Yue resolves to distance herself from Lee and Jun. Witnessing Yue's sadness, Lee encourages her to practice more, but she expresses her intention to break up. Despite Lee's efforts to dissuade her, Yue leaves, leaving him distraught. When Rina learns of Yue's breakup with Lee, she is taken aback, but Yue refuses to divulge the true reason behind the split. The following day, Jun and Lee unexpectedly show up at Yue's house, where Lee notices signs of alcohol consumption. Rina and Jun spy on them as Lee attempts to reconcile with Yue, but she maintains her composure and refrains from embracing him. Lee implores her to have breakfast, unwilling to accept the breakup, to which Yue responds that she'll agree if she finishes her meal. With only one piece of food remaining, Jun swiftly snatches it and consumes it, prompting Yue to remark on Lee's influence on his son. Lee promises to bring breakfast like this every day as he clears the plates. Jun decides to take Ming to school, so Lee offers to drop Yue off at the office. However, Yue opts to ride her bicycle instead. Lee hastily purchases a bike from someone en route and follows Yue to her office, but his haste results in torn pants, much to Yue's amusement. Although she suppresses her laughter initially, she eventually bursts into laughter, prompting Lee to engage in silly antics to keep her smiling. When she attempts to leave, he hugs her, preventing her from saying anything further. Meanwhile, Ming offers Rina his villa, but she refuses upon seeing her family's materialistic behavior. A heated argument ensues between Rina and Ming regarding this decision. On the other hand, feeling despondent, Yue switches off her phone, prompting Lee and Jun, who were waiting for her, to notice her arrival with Ning Fang. Lee decides to leave with Jun, while Rina encounters two individuals whom her brother had borrowed money from. She hides from them and calls Ming for help. Initially hesitant, Ming eventually shares his address, leading Rina to rush to his location. She asserts that their relationship will now be strictly professional, to which Ming responds with a witty remark, leaving Rina irritated as she departs. The next day, Lee and Jun bring breakfast for Yue, but their moment of peace is interrupted when Lee receives a call informing him that the sponsor for the bracelet project has refused to sign the contract. On the other hand, Ming is troubled by how irritated Rina was when she left him yesterday. He arrives at the office, rallying everyone to focus on their tasks, and also immerses himself in his work. Meanwhile, Lin Wei secretly takes stress medication from her mother, who urges her to get closer to Lee. Meanwhile, a senior doctor at the hospital offers Yue the opportunity to study abroad. Although the situation with the bracelet project remains uncertain, Lee apologizes to the team, but Lee remains determined to see it through. Later, Lin Wei reveals to Yue that it's the day of the Heshi and Lin Wei group's party, where Lee is expected to agree to marry her. Lin Wei insists that Yue must ensure Lee's presence at the event for the success of the bracelet project. Later, Yue finds about Rina coming down with a fever, so she tends to her. Sensing Rina's desire to see Ming, Yue takes the initiative to inform Ming about her condition. Lee, who is coincidentally with Ming at that moment, witnesses Yue's gesture of kindness. Amidst her illness, Rina hastily applies makeup upon hearing that Ming is arriving. Lee and Ming arrive together, and upon Ming's instruction, Lee and Yue step outside to give Ming and Rina privacy. Seizing the moment, Yue encourages Lee to attend the party. Inside, Ming prepares ginger soup for Rina, intending to confess his love, but she rebuffs his advances. Meanwhile, Lee attends the party and calls Yue, who reveals her plan to move abroad and get away from his life. She tells him that she no longer loves him, and cuts the call with a heavy heart. Just then, Lin Wei arrives there and asks Lee to agree to the marriage between them for the welfare of their companies. Lee, however, emphasizes the importance of love over ambition, prompting a confrontation between them. Despite Lin Wei's attempts to kiss him, Lee firmly rejects her advances, insisting on respecting boundaries. Increasingly stressed, Lin Wei seeks solace in Ning Fang's company. He arranges for her to stay with him, nursing her back to health. Meanwhile, Lee discovers that Auntie had met with the driver from the accident and suspects foul play. He instructs his associate to monitor Auntie's actions. When Auntie reprimands Lee for leaving the party, he confronts her about her meeting with the driver and her role in Yue's breakup with him. Despite Auntie's excuses, her phone rings, revealing the driver's call. Lee confronts the driver, ready to exact revenge, but the driver drops a bombshell. Lee himself was driving during the accident. Shocked by this revelation, Lee is left devastated. Upon Auntie's revelation, Lee learns the truth. He lost his memory after the accident, and Yue had saved Jun. To protect Lee from the painful memory, Auntie acquiesced to the driver's demands and persuaded Yue to leave him. Distraught, Lee wonders how Jun will perceive him upon learning the truth. Meanwhile, Yue confides in her parents about her marriage to Lee and subsequent love for Lee, explaining her decision to break up due to her study abroad plans, leaving her parents saddened by her plight. On the other hand, Mr. Ming's newfound responsibility in the office is fueled by his desire to earn Rina's trust and demonstrate his commitment to her. Though Rina maintains composure, she secretly feels elated by his efforts. While Lin Wei grapples with stress, Ning Fang's note encourages her to unwind by reading his diary. On the other hand, as Yue prepares dinner, she reminisces about Lee. She calls all her friends for dinner to thank them. Despite her efforts to appear happy, Lee senses her inner turmoil and gracefully accepts the breakup, wishing her well before leaving Yue deeply saddened. Later, Ningfang advises Lin Wei to accept reality, but she refuses, intending to leave. However, Ningfang realizes that Lin Wei has discovered his diary, in which he had confessed his love for Yue. Misunderstanding the situation, Lin Wei announces Yue and Li's impending marriage to Ningfang, who remains silent in response. On the other hand, as Yue bids farewell to her friends before leaving abroad, Ming informs Rina about Li's disappearance. Concerned, Yue contacts Auntie, who reveals that Li now knows the truth. Rushing to Li, Yue embraces him, assuring him it's not his fault, but he withdraws, admitting his mistake in the bracelet project and how it won't help. Seeing him in distress, Yue urges him to come home with her for Jun's sake. However, at home, Li insists she leave for abroad, despite her refusal. He eventually departs, leaving Yue devastated. When questioned by Ningfang about the situation, Yue explains that Li had forgotten about the accident, but upon learning the truth, he's overwhelmed with stress. Ningfang advises her to go abroad for her own well-being, but Yue is determined to stay with Li, realizing her future is intertwined with him. Yue's decision to stand by Li brings happiness to Rina, who admires her courage to follow her heart. Meanwhile, Li is haunted by dreams of the car accident. Upon waking, he notices Yue's return home and warns Jun that she isn't his mother, then retreats. When Yue and Jun attempt to bring him breakfast, he refuses to open the door, prompting them to leave a note instead. The following day, Yue informs Ming about the driver's recording, which reveals Li had settled his brother's 10 million debt after the accident. This suggests Li's brakes did not fail naturally, but likely due to tampering, given Li's driving proficiency. Later, Yue waits for Li during dinner, but falls asleep while waiting. Upon waking, she notices Li and invites him to eat, but he notices her burnt hand from cooking and inquires about the injury. Believing Li isn't at fault for the accident, Yue encourages him to recall the event, but he dismisses her, prompting her to leave. However, Yue realizes that without Li recalling the accident, they won't be able to uncover the truth and mend his memory. So she sends Ningfang after him, who expresses that he is going to confess his feelings for Yue today. When Li expresses doubt about Yue's acceptance, Ningfang reassures him, stating his willingness to wait for her decision and accompany her abroad for studies. Li is deeply affected by this revelation. Later, Ningfang takes Yue somewhere, where he offers to go abroad with her. Confused, Yue questions his intentions, but before Ningfang can respond, Li intervenes and takes Yue away. Unbeknownst to Yue, Ningfang orchestrated this situation to alleviate Li's stress and help him acknowledge his feelings for her, with Lin Wei's assistance. Ningfang talks with Lin Wei about realizing that Yue will never choose him, so he helped her attain her happiness. Later, he plays guitar and sings a song, and Lin Wei gazes affectionately at him, hinting at her growing affection for him. Meanwhile, Jun insists on playing basketball instead of attending his class. He then calls Li dad after seeing a photo of him and his biological playing basketball together. Overwhelmed with happiness, Li embraces Jun, bringing tears to Yue's eyes as well. Li then plays basketball with Jun, cherishing the moment. Meanwhile, Lin Wei confides in Ningfang about her lack of time to contemplate love due to business stress. Ningfang inquiries about the source of her anxiety, and Lin Wei reveals her insecurities stemming from her mother's influence on her career. She tells her about an incident where she won a design contest, but then learnt that her mother paid money for her to win. That has left her with a sense of self-doubt about her true abilities. Feeling misunderstood and unappreciated, Lin Wei shares her vulnerability with Ningfang, who encourages her to value her own opinion above others. Later, as Yue looks at a photo of Li and his brother, Li approaches her and expresses his determination to regain his memories for their happiness. Despite Ningfang's attempts at returning his memories by hypnosis, Li remains unable to recall the accident. However, he maintains a facade of remembrance in front of the driver to coax the truth out of him. When the driver flees in fear, Li realizes his involvement in the accident. Despite his disappointment at failing to recover his memories, Yue comforts him with a hug, providing solace in their shared journey. Later, Rina's mother offers her a chicken wing, a childhood favorite, but Rina dismisses her, opting to eat alone while shedding tears. Ming arrives and apologizes for missing her call earlier, explaining his absence due to being preoccupied. He then escorts her to the rooftop, which he had adorned for her. Expressing her determination to be self-sufficient in the city, Rina discloses her daily struggle for independence. She removes her makeup and shoes, symbolizing her desire for liberation from societal constraints. In a heartfelt gesture, Ming cleans the rooftop floor, outlining a house with his mop, symbolizing his commitment to providing her with a home and supporting her dreams. Professing his love, Ming asks Rina to be with him forever. She embraces him and reciprocates his feelings with a kiss, leading to a relationship where they are both sure about their feelings. Later, Rina realizes she inadvertently took Ming's phone to the office after spending the night with him. When prompted by the president to call Ming regarding his tardiness, Rina intercepts, preventing the president from contacting him. Just then, Ming arrives, apologizing for his lateness and explaining his delay in finding his phone, thereby resolving the situation. Meanwhile, Yue accompanies Jun to his school, but as she approaches him excitedly, she is suddenly kidnapped by a man with his face concealed. He forcibly abducts Yue and speeds away in his car. Our quick-thinking Jun records the incident and alerts Lee, providing him with crucial details, including the car's number plate. Lee springs into action, pursuing the kidnapper's vehicle. In the ensuing chase, a collision occurs, triggering a flashback of the past accident. Through this, Lee recollects his lost memories. Meanwhile, Yue rushes to the hospital where Lee is being treated for minor injuries sustained during the collision, telling him that he had also saved her life. The perpetrators from the AM group were apprehended by the police. They confessed to orchestrating the kidnapping of Yue, and even confessed about tampering with the car brakes that led to the death of Lee's brother and sister-in-law. Lee expresses gratitude to Yue for rescuing him, and she reciprocates, acknowledging their inseparable bond, sealing their gratitude with a kiss. Later, Ningfang reaches out to the judges from Lin Wei's design contest and learns that she was awarded the first prize because of her design and not because of her mother's involvement. He reveals the truth behind her award, dispelling her mother's deception. Grateful for his support, Lin Wei expresses her thanks. Meanwhile, Lee and Yue receive a message from Ningfang, but Lee, feeling jealous, requests him not to visit. Instead, they indulge in street food together, cherishing their time amid the challenges. After stealthily escaping from the hospital, Lee and Yue indulge in snacks outdoors, relishing the simple joy it brings them. Meanwhile, Lin Wei faces her mother's disapproval for neglecting her company responsibilities. However, Lin Wei asserts her desire to pursue her own design career, causing friction with her mother, who storms off in anger. Later, during a basketball game with Jun and Yue, Lee accidentally gets hit in the head by the ball and faints. In his dream, he envisions his brother and sister-in-law, entrusting him with the responsibility of taking care of their son. Meanwhile, Lin Wei seeks refuge at Ningfang's house, finding solace in his company as he prepares noodles for her while she works on her designs. Encouraged by Ningfang's support, Lin Wei creates a remarkable dress design, signifying a turning point in her life and career. She also urges Ningfang to let go of his past and embrace a fresh start, a sentiment he eventually agrees with. On the other side, as Lee falls asleep while working, Yue joins him, lying down beside him in a tender moment of connection. Meanwhile, learning that Lin Wei's design has garnered interest from a French company, Ningfang experiences conflicting emotions, initially elated about her success, but ultimately saddened by her impending departure. On the other side, Yue happily receives her and Lee's marriage certificate, prompting Lee to playfully request she call him darling for the first time. Overwhelmed with affection, Yue complies, leading to a loving exchange between the couple. Despite Lee's encouragement for Yue to pursue her dream of studying abroad, she hesitates to leave him and Jun behind. To reassure her, Lee promises to visit her every month. As Yue envisions her wedding day with Lee, she falls, prompting Lee to tenderly kiss her. Once Yue departs for her studies abroad, Lee maintains their connection through daily video calls, bridging the distance between them. On the other hand, Rina and Ming watch a horror movie together, where Ming becomes so frightened that he instinctively embraces her for comfort. Their intimate moment is witnessed by Ming's father, the chairman, who later confronts Ming about his feelings for Rina. Despite his father's disapproval, Ming bravely confesses his love for Rina, but the chairman remains adamant that he cannot be with his assistant. Later, Rina decides to end their relationship, prompting Ming to plead with her to reconsider. When she remains steadfast in her decision, Ming seeks counsel from his father. The chairman manipulatively suggests that Ming should marry the daughter of the Lin Wei group to gain wealth and power. However, Ming refuses to compromise his love for Rina, even at the cost of his CEO position. To Ming's surprise, the chairman reveals that his actions were a test to determine the sincerity of Ming's love for Rina. Relieved and amused by the chairman's scheme, Ming playfully chides Rina for not revealing the truth sooner. Despite the chairman's offer of wealth and status, Ming remains committed to building a life with Rina through his own hard work. Meanwhile, Lee eagerly anticipates Yue's return from abroad, only to receive news that she had to cut her trip short due to work commitments. Disappointed, Lee and June return home, where June's longing for his mother is evident. Yue surprises them by returning home early, much to June's delight, and they share a heartwarming reunion filled with hugs and kisses. Soon as Lee and Yue exchange vows on their wedding day, June humorously interrupts with a long list of wedding vows. Yue playfully urges him to get to the point, but Lee insists they start from the beginning. With the formalities done, Lee places the ring on Yue's finger, and she reciprocates, symbolizing their union. Lee, overcome with joy, kisses Yue, and the room erupts in applause. When it's time to toss the bouquet, it lands in Ningfang's hands, and Lin Wei comes to his side. Ming teasingly suggests Ningfang give the bouquet to him because his girlfriend is older, so they should get married first. This sparks laughter and cheers from the guests. Ningfang delivers the bouquet to Lin Wei, and everyone celebrates, marking the end of a long journey to find love and happiness. Later, Yue writes a romance novel based on her and Lee's love story. Lee takes an interest in it, asking about the novel's title. When Yue playfully brushes off his inquiry, June interjects with praise for his mother's writing skills. The family shares a laugh, signifying a happy ending to their story. And with that, the heartwarming drama ends, leaving behind unforgettable memories of love and laughter.